Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Maresha, and I want to talk today about doing nothing, slow living. Some of the girlies are calling it returning back into their feminine energy. And this all came about. I'm trying to get a YouTube channel started, right? And for the past 4 weeks, I've been wondering, what am I going to talk about? What do I want the YouTube channel to even be about? And I'm telling you, I could not figure out, what do you do every day that you want to show, Kelly? And finally, today, just out of the blue, it hit me that I don't do anything. I do nothing all day. I do nothing. And I love it. And I actually worked hard to get to a place where I could do nothing and still have a roof over my head, still have food, still have gas in my tank, still be able to do some of the activities that I want to do. Probably in 2017, 2018, I was living in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I was a part of a large church family, two large church families. I was known by a lot of different names. Some people knew me as the Weaver Diva. Some people knew me as just Kelly Henson. I'm a singer. I would sing in church. Um, but a lot of people knew me as a person, the plus size girly that could dress her ass off or would dress very eclectically. Thrifting was my big thing. I was in the thrift store every week. I remember one full calendar year, I committed to never wear the same outfit twice to church. And I did that. I was at the thrift store every weekend, getting and piecing together the most cute vintage wardrobe. And I'll try to drop some of the pictures in here so you can see. Because I was fly. I was fly. Make sure the mic is still on. Because I've done that before. I've done an entire video, mic wasn't on. It's frustrating. I lived a life that was very busy because I didn't know that a life that wasn't busy existed. Ever since I was a little girl, I've had an image of what I wanted. I don't know now if it's what I wanted my life to be like, or if I could really see in the future what my life looked like. And that's a little different for me because I don't always think that I was creating that life to live it because I had no form of reference to be able to create what I saw from. Every woman that I'd ever knew, every person, but specifically black women that looked like me, worked and worked a lot. And the women, at least to the eye, it looked like they worked and worked a lot to the eye. And I noticed probably when I was around 10 or 11, and I share this story quite often, I'll share it again. But my parents were chief of working hard. Nobody worked harder than my parents. And I remember always seeing my mom and dad come home and they weren't smiling. And to me, they looked very miserable. And as a child looking at them, I'm thinking to myself, please never let me grow up and lose my smile. Never let me grow up and not laugh anymore. Because I thought that adults didn't laugh. It was as if there's this line where you cross out of adulthood, cross out of childhood and go into adulthood, and you don't have any joy anymore. And that looked so miserable to me. And even though we had everything, I at least I did. I know that I am the last child. So the last child has definitely a different experience. Um, but part of that different experience came from, I came from parents that were wiser. They had more money by the time I came along. So, my life looked different. And, I came from a life that I had everything that I could possibly want, two of everything, more than enough, right? More than I knew what to do with. Um, so I was grateful for that. But I didn't realize at the time the cost or what my parents viewed as the cost for that. In that time period, most people believed that you needed to labor and toil to be able to have, that you work hard and then you have. And for a lot of people, that recipe worked, where they worked hard, they worked tirelessly, but also when they got to a certain part of their life, they were unable to enjoy the things that they'd spent 30 and 40 years working for. They either weren't alive to enjoy it or weren't well enough to enjoy it. And that actually makes me emotional just talking about that. Just saying that, I can feel my emotions welling up inside, because to go that long with a promise or a hope or a belief that one day one day I will, one day, and never make it to see that day is very sad for me. So this is what I grew up seeing, but this wasn't who I was intrinsically. I never could see a life where I labored and toiled for 20 and 30 years, not even 10, 20 or 30 years to save up for this grand day of retirement. I never could see that for myself, ever, ever, ever. And so growing up and believing and seeing and remembering what I saw, remembering what I could see about my future, even though I was not sure how I was going to get there. Like, I don't know how, but I just know that this is what I keep seeing. And I don't think I'm making this up. I'm not, I didn't feel like I was really cultivating it. I didn't feel like I was curating that dream. It felt like it was coming to me. It was like it was reminding me. As an adult now, I feel like that was reminding me of where we're going. Reminding me of, hey, you have already written out your life for yourself. I just want you to remember this is where you're going to end up. Great. I mean, this is great. It's wonderful. It's shiny. I love it. Lots of money there. I love it. It's calm. It's peaceful. I was very sure the images that I kept seeing as a kid. I was very sure of those images. And fast forward to today, that I'm sitting and I live in a lifestyle where I do nothing all day. And I love it. And I wanted to talk about what doing nothing looks like for me and what it has taught me. And maybe even remember some of the things that I had to move past. If doing nothing for a season is something that you want to do, or you endeavor to live a lifestyle like that, I hope that, number one, by you seeing me, you will now have a frame of reference. You have seen somebody who looks like you, who is, for all intents and purposes, normal, like you. And I do nothing. And I have been doing nothing for about 2.5 years. And I love it. But that doesn't mean that I'll be doing nothing forever. That means in this season of doing nothing, I have learned what contentment feels like. And contentment was something I was very scared of. I've done a video about that before, and I'm definitely going to talk about it again. I may hit on it today as well. But being content was something that frightened me, because I felt like it meant that I was being stagnant, and it felt like I was accepting mediocrity. It felt like I was accepting what was given to me, accepting like defeat accepting, that you might as well make the best of it, because I was looking at contentment from a very negative view, from a very pessimistic view. And it's very interesting because I'm the most optimistic person that you'll probably ever meet. But I was looking at it from a pessimistic view because the people that were teaching me to be content and the people that they were teaching to be content were living lives that I did not want to have any part of. Nothing about their lives looked like anything that I wanted to emulate in my life. Not them working, not them driving the cars that they were driving, not them living in the places that they were living, nothing about what they were doing was like, oh, I want to live like this. So I'm going to listen to this person because they know how to live like I want to live. They weren't. And so when I was looking at the people that they were trying to convince to be content, even as a child, baby, you shouldn't be content with that. I wouldn't be content with that. Nothing about your life, girl, wouldn't be. Don't let them lie to you about being content. Fight. I don't. Before, I didn't know anything about mindset. I knew nothing about that. All I knew was, girl, listen, I would get up and work another job before I'd be content in this. That's what I looked at. Like, oh hell no. You couldn't make me be content in this. That's what I saw growing up. So that was my frame of reference of what content meant, and I wanted no parts of it. Um, in 2021, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I love Las Vegas so much. Las Vegas is everything. And I actually am relocating back there part time. I'm going to be a snowbird. So I'll do 6 months in Las Vegas and 6 months here in my spot here in my place in Mexico. Um, but about in 2021, I let a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom condo go, and I moved into a 1995 Ford Explorer. And it was great. And that story is a long one, and eventually I'll get to there, but I want to stay focused on the nothingness. I want to focus on when I started feeling nothingness and when I started to appreciate nothingness. I think I appreciated the nothingness of living homeless or home free later on in the experience. I was home free for 7 months. I didn't enjoy the nothingness until the last 2 months. I enjoyed being out there. I enjoyed the freedom. But the freedom and the nothingness, in this space, I can say that I wasn't defining them the exact same. I think I enjoyed the freedomness because it felt childlike. It felt very magical. It felt very adventurous. It felt very like a fairy. And I felt like I could just go outside and twirl if I wanted to. And I did. And I did. And I just felt like everything was possible. It was the most magical moments, living home free for 7 months. But the last 2 months, I remember specifically one time where I visited the dispensary and I was partaking in my recreation, in my daily recreation. I remember laying flat in the back because I had it set up like a bed back in the back. And I remember being in a park. I was laid on my back and I had my legs crossed and one hand behind my head. And I was transported to another time that I was alive in, another either a timeline or lifetime, which are different. Either another lifetime where I wasn't necessarily Kelly, or another timeline. But I know that in that moment I was not where my physical body was. And I remember feeling in that moment, you need to enjoy this because you're never going to feel this again. And it's hard for me to put into human words what that moment felt like. It felt free, but it felt transcending. In that moment, I felt nothing. I felt like I was floating, but that nothingness that I felt like bliss. It felt like um, there are times now where I can stop and pause and feel the vibration of my body. I can feel my frequency. I can feel the buzzing. I can feel the sound that my body makes. And that was the first time that I could recognize that I was feeling and hearing and experiencing my vibration in my own frequency. And I loved it. It was the most delicious melted chocolate that I got a chance to lick off my fingers one by one. If you like chocolate, you know what I'm saying. That when you're done with the chocolate, but you can't wipe your hands off because that's the best part. Like the chocolate gone. But you like, I get to savor it one last time, and you take it from finger to finger. You clean it better than the water, soap and water. Please put some soap and water on your hands. But baby, not one fragment is lost of that chocolate. It's so delicious. That's how that moment felt for me. And I can say today, since I've moved here, that I have repeatedly that moment benchmarked the beginning of a season in my life where I'm not going to say it was isolation. I thought it was isolation, but it's not isolation necessarily. It is nothing. I enjoy feeling nothing sometimes. I enjoy doing nothing sometimes, a lot of times. Now, I know that a lot of people get scared when I just said feeling nothing. A lot of people get scared with that because they feel like we're so programmed to move and always have a plan and an agenda and always have a task. And if you're not moving and if you're not in the hustle and bustle of it, like that's a bad thing, right? Feeling nothing has been villainized to be viewed as a bad thing. It has been, and I am a person that understands depressive episodes. So I understand the feeling of nothing, of depression, like you're nothing, like your value is nothing, versus feeling nothing and sitting and feeling like that white room that's on the Matrix before those shelves came in to show Neo his options. That white room, and even there's another television show called on Netflix called The Good Place, and there was I can't remember what the android girl's name was. Jan, I can't remember what her name was, but I remember the last season she would go into something called a void, and that's what that feels like for me, that void, because it feels like everything is possible, but there's nothing there. It feels like creation. It feels like when Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about the world being founded from nothing. That void feels like at my command, I could have and create everything. But I enjoy the deliciousness of the nothing because the nothing is everything. The nothing feels like infinity. It feels like the nothing is the lightest, heaviest feeling that you've ever experienced. It is beautiful. And even just sitting here now and taking that nothing in, I felt emotional. Because I hope that everybody that desires to feel the bliss and the joy and the deliciousness of still and slow and nothingness If that is your desire, I hope that you get to experience it not just once in your life, but for an extended period of time, that you learn how to create a culture around yourself, learn how to create structure within yourself and around yourself, that you're able to form a masculine container that will hold and have capacity for your level of nothing. People ask me, what do I do for a living? I take care of myself because I want to live. What do you do for a living? Many people work, and this is what you do to pay bills, but you're not living. What do I do for a living? I remember to brush my teeth every day. What do I do for a living? I take slower showers with exfoliating mitts and smell goods. What do I do for a living? I take the time to wash in between my toes. And you would think, oh, that's basic. No, because there are thousands, millions of people that forget these steps because they're moving so fast to get to work, to be on time, to be to the next place, to take care of somebody, to feed this, to do this. And people forget those little steps about themselves until they realize, oh, I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't done this. Or they don't realize until something breaks down, until your body starts to communicate something to you that you haven't done this. Hey, you haven't meditated in months. Hey, you haven't drank water in 3 days. Your lower back's hurting. That's why it's hurting. Hey, you haven't had a solid night of sleep, and that's why you're feeling manic. You haven't had sleep in 6 days. For a living, and what I know living is for me, what do? I invest in my living so that I can continue to live. A very big part of me doing nothing was realizing and understanding and learning time, the concept of time. And I want to talk about time the way that I view it. There are many channels and many mystics, esoteric people, all people that will talk about time and time not existing and time not being real. And they're right. And, not but, and time is very real, and it is your biggest commodity. You don't own anything more precious than time. But it is the one thing that we give away so freely. We give away for $15 an hour, for $20 an hour, for $30 an hour. You give time away. Because I don't know if that's a fair trade. I don't know if there's a value. If anybody has ever lost a parent, ask them what they would give for 10 more minutes of time. Would that $30 for the hour that your job was paying you, would that be enough for you to miss that 10 minutes with your parent? If they could come back and you could hug them again, if you could smell them again, if you could hear their laugh again, would that $30 be worth it? I don't think there is a fair trade for your time, but you give the time because of the illusion of what you feel like you need to do to survive and what you think you need to survive. And for me, all of that has changed. What I know I need and what I know has to be done for me to survive in a way, survive and thrive in a way that I'm happy with, is very different because I understand time. My first lesson with time came to me when I was in the SUV. And it was time for me to quantum jump. It was time for me to turn the page in the book. It was time for me to have a new experience. And I remember I kept articulating a refrain to the people around me that I'm done with this experience. I'm getting ready to move to the next. And it was very almost out of body me saying that because, um, again, looking back at it now, like you really didn't know what, like you knew what you were saying, but you were saying it like matter of fact, like it wasn't a question. It was basically, I'm getting ready to move to the next chapter. I'm done with this. That's how I felt about it. And I remember getting instructions from my spirit about how to manage my time. And things started to click for me. Oh, there's a reason why jobs take the prime time of your day. There's a reason why you're more productive at certain times of the day. There's a reason why they have a magic number of 8 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours. There's a reason why. There is a reason why 9 to 5 is standard or typical. There's a reason. And as I started understanding time in that in that way of looking at time as a commodity, looking at time as an asset, looking at time just as great as you would think. For the sake of this conversation, I will say that a house is an asset, though I do not believe that a house is a full asset. I do not want to get into that conversation. But if I could just use this without going too deeply financially into the liability that a house can be and oftentimes is, I considered my time just as valuable as a home purchase. Once I started considering my time valuable like that, I no longer was willing to trade it. Just I knew, but I knew that that time was the thing that I could trade for finances. And I knew that I was ready to make a move here to Mexico. And homeless, that's all I had was time. That's all I had. I had an SUV, but that was my house. So I can't do nothing with that. I can't Uber Eats with that. It's a 95. I can't turn that into an asset. What do I have? I had tarot cards and I had time. And those tarot cards and my time became my biggest assets. And I flipped tarot cards for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks. I flipped the fuck out of those tarot cards. I ran every sale possible. Every time I was on any new social media, I was running a special. I was in inboxes. I was channeling. I was asking spirit to show me people that may need me. I was grinding, right? Because I knew that I was done with that experience and I was getting ready to move into the next. And in addition to me taking that time to trade that time for services, I was also using that time to improve myself. I was doing shadow work and I was heavy into shadow work. And I was specifically on a part of shadow work where it was standing up for myself and not allowing people to use my gifts without reciprocity. I have a gift, I have lots of gifts that I have sharpened over the years. But my gift of being an intuitive is very strong. And I work with all people, celebrities, lay people, all people. And I just was starting to witness my work and my words helping people and not fully being compensated. And so I was in a part of my life where I needed to speak up for myself, even if I felt like I was intimidated. I had to learn how to speak up even when I felt intimidated. A lot of people want to wait until they don't feel intimidated before they speak. That'll never happen. You've got to speak while you feel intimidated. If you know anything about quantum jumping, and I don't want to get into, quite into that, but I will say this: you quantum jump through discomfort or pleasure, pain or pleasure, fear and happiness. These are the portals through which you quantum jump through. Not just emotion, the spectrum of pain and pleasure, happiness, sorrow, fear. It's the poles of comfort and discomfort. That's what you quantum jump through, manifest through, whatever you want to say. Back to nothingness. And so in 6 weeks, I had mastering that lesson of speaking up for myself, even though I felt intimidated. I jumped through that lesson, and that lesson was financially very good for me. And so I was able to have what I needed to have to get myself here to Mexico and to execute my plan. My father taught me a refrain. He would say it all the time: plan your work and work your plan. That means when you jump, don't get over there and lose control. Don't get over there and forget what you planned. You've got to establish roots. You've got to, and I have another video that I recorded about 2 weeks ago. I'll try to put a link below so that you can see that video. It's called Sticking the Landing, and helping you to learn how to establish roots when you quantum jump to different places, when you are now in new environments, you have gone into a new phase of your life. It's really important that you stick that landing, but it's really important that you remember what you said you were going to do while you were over here, because that same plan, you've got to work it. The plan is, if you start the plan and then you stop the plan in the middle, when you quantum jump, that's not the end, that's the middle. And if you stop the plan in the middle, you can and most likely will forfeit the whole jump. So you must remember the rest of the plan and execute it to the very end. To the very end. And one of those large things about me, so I told you about establishing and understanding time, and understanding that I still needed to put parameters, masculine energy container is what I call it, masculine container around my time. Because at that point, I had decided that my time was going to be mine. And with my time being mine, that meant that I was responsible for everything. I was responsible for how I was going to eat. I'm responsible to, you still have to have a roof over your head. Your time is what you have to trade for those things. You need to establish things that can keep going without you being present. You need to establish things that can be automated. That's how you take advantage of time. Companies hire multiple people to do what one person cannot do. A lot of times companies start off with that one person or that two people or those two people and their family, and they were doing something until it got too big, and then they had to use other people's time to help them make their greater vision a reality. And there's no difference between that and automation. How do I keep things going when I'm not using my time and staying present? How do I keep things going? And I mastered it, how to do that. I mastered how to, I kept sharpening my assets. Remember, I said my assets in the very beginning were my time and my tarot cards. Well, I no longer needed my tarot cards, because as I continued to take that set, and then I also took my time and my tarot cards and also shadow work, working on myself. As I kept investing in myself and working on myself, I became the asset. Speaking to me became an asset. Hearing my thoughts became an asset. Hearing how I'm able to, using my gift of hearing, and hearing how I'm able to link things together, how I'm able to ask the right questions and put the story together that the person themselves is like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't see that. That's what I'm here for. I turned myself into an asset. But I also automated so that I did not have to grind. I didn't have to necessarily. Now, if I pop up in somebody's inbox, I don't necessarily have to advertise for them. I can just pop up in their inbox and say, hey, I'm sending you a video. I was thinking about you. I do that quite often. or hey, I'm available if you need me. But it's not the same kind of, but I'm hoping you need me, right? Because if the truth be told is, I really hope that you don't need me all the time. Because that's how I know for me. I knew very early that I was going to be teaching myself out of a job. And that's the point of it. I don't want anybody that I work with to always need me. I eventually want them to graduate and maybe come back to visit every once in a while. And especially as I continue to grow, maybe there's something else that I can help them with on another leg of their journey. But, you know, I definitely knew that the nature of what I did would ultimately be out teaching myself. What is that on the ground? Is that my drink? I don't know. It might be a reflection of some sort. But I always knew that I was gonna, out outdo myself, I suppose, out teach myself, out mentor myself. And so in this lifestyle of nothingness, the reason why I'm able to do nothing is because again, I've made myself an asset and I learned how to automate that asset and I learned how to put the asset on subscription. I did that through masculine energy. I did that through order. I did that through organization, through routine, through schedule, through a schedule. The way to nothingness came through order. The way to nothingness came through masculine energy. And I really want to sit here for a second because I want to share this. This is personal. I always thought that I was going to need a man to live this kind of life. As a child, I don't think I saw a man necessarily. But as I grew up, I couldn't figure out. Remember, I told you I saw these pieces of my life, but I didn't know how I was supposed to get there. And so, as I'm growing up and now I'm getting exposure and having experiences of life, my thinking, my brain started to think, not my awareness, not my spirit, my brain with its limited capabilities. Although that my brain is pretty spectacular, but the frontal lobe, we'll talk about the frontal lobe of my brain. It started thinking about what it knew, the limited of what it knew. And it started to think that there was no way that I was going to be able to live this kind of life and be financially stabilized and be able to provide for myself a beautiful home, to be able to do the traveling that I've done, that I continue to do. I didn't see how I was going to be able to do that without a man. And now I realize that it wasn't the man I needed, it was the masculine energy that I lacked. Kind of going back to the beginning again, being the youngest child, I definitely had a lot more freedom and luxuries because, again, my parents were older, they were working longer hours. And by the time I was probably in middle school, my dad was very sick. And so I had a parent that would go to work, drag back in the house, and be asleep until the next job because he was sick. And he increasingly got more and more sick all through high school, college, and he eventually passed away when we were in the hospital for my 27th birthday. 28th, 27th or 28th birthday, one of those. I actually don't remember, 27th or 28th birthday. But he passed away 12 days after my birthday. And which was very significant. He passed away during my Saturn return. And one of the things that I did not get as much of as the others was the discipline. So this was something that I had to learn on my own. And I had to understand what masculine energy was and not be afraid of it. I had to separate masculine energy from the men that I was coming into experiences with, the men that I was witnessing, viewing, being influenced by, were definitely not. In some areas they were great with the masculine energy, but in other areas they absolutely showed me a negative view of manhood and masculinity that I didn't know how to untangle. And so as I started understanding what masculine energy was isolated of a gender, I was able to start trusting it. Trusting it at first and then trusting it for myself. Trusting it in myself. There's what I just said is a process. Trusting the energy, trusting it for myself, and trusting it in myself, activating. Um, I had to order, I had to get things set up before I could do nothingness. You can't just go into nothingness, you're going to be homeless. Please don't go into nothingness without your structure, your masculine structure, your order. I give an example of a swimming pool. I am a fit girl, so I love swimming, but I float and I love floating. I literally can just stick my feet up, lay back, and float. I think it's impossible for me to sink. Um, I've never sunk in water in my life. Even when I'm in jacuzzis, I'm not sinking, and it's hard. Sometimes I have to like fight to keep my buns on a little bench. But what's so special about what I'm trying to say is when I lay back in a pool and I float, it's always building something. There's nothing wrong with that. We're talking about building something so that you can do nothing. And when I lay back and I float, I know without a shadow of doubt that I'm not going to fall off the edge of anywhere. I'm not about to leave out of the confines of that square or whatever shape the pool is in, because the parameter serves as the masculine energy. The parameter serves as the boundary, the limit. I cannot go further than that. And I set the boundary, I set the limit. So inside of my own boundary, inside of my own structure, I am free to do whatever I want to do, as long as it is within the bounds of my parameters. What I have used to organize and set up and structure myself inside of that, I am free. I am free to float. I am free to twirl. I am free to do nothing. I am free to nap all day. I am free to take an hour long shower if I want. I am free to go out and eat every day if I want to. I am free to work out 30 minutes. I am free to work out 3 hours. I am free to read books all day. I am free to lay outside on my patio. I'm looking at my patio right now, as I do quite often, especially when it's not like right now, there's overcast. Oh, this would be so perfect to put a blanket out there and just lay back and look at the sky and just get lost. But I can do that inside of my own borders, inside of my own parameters, my own masculine energy. I provide for myself. I protect myself through that border, through that masculine order, through that parameter, through that container. I provide, I protect, and there's a plan. It's a plan. So I don't have to worry about anything. It's already executed. What does doing nothing look like? Well, it is true. There are some days where I will sleep, where I'll wake up, I'll work out, I'll eat a delicious breakfast, maybe 2 pancakes, a little bacon, and then I'll go back to sleep for another 4 hours if I want to. Doing nothing looks like a lot of times I love right where I'm sitting right now. I'll throw all these pillows off and I'll lay back flat, and my windows go up to the ceiling, and I'll just lay back and look up at that sky and look at the birds, or start to see the different shapes of the clouds, or even, you know how sometimes you can start to see the little speckles and dots and the pixelations of the matrix. Ooh. I'll just sit back and enjoy that and do nothing. A lot of times I love daydreaming. I have been a daydreamer since I was a child. A lot of people will know that as disassociations, and I actually don't think anything's wrong with disassociation itself. There's a timing for disassociation. I cannot disassociate when I don't want to be any place, and that was something that I used to do. If there was a place I didn't want to be at, or then I wouldn't be there. Right, the body's there, the consciousness is not. This I done floated somewhere. I done I done traveled to some realms already. It's time to go. Okay, I'm back. So I do have discipline in that way, that I don't allow myself to do that when it's times that I need to be present. But I also practice in nothingness. I practice being present. I practice not disassociating. Sometimes I practice feeling my body, feeling my frequency, feeling what I feel like, and hearing what I sound like, because there is a sound. Your frequency has a sound. If you just sit still enough and you sit peaceful enough, and you even turn off. I have my air on right now. Turning off the air conditionings, turning off every motor that you can, anything that will buzz, because the more centered and conditioned and practice that you have about sitting in the silence and sitting in the quiet, you will start to hear the buzzing of everything. You can hear the buzzing of the electricity, things being plugged in. You can hear the buzzing. Well, most people cannot hear that buzzing, but the more you practice silence and meditation, and centering and being quiet, you're able to differentiate any sound that is not your own, because you know what you sound like. My sister and I, it's so funny. We used to be the same size for a long time. We would kind of like wear the same size clothes, and sometimes we would even buy the same things, but I would always know the difference between our clothes by the smell. And it's not an odor. We have different perfumes, but we also have different pHs. So I would know, this is hers, this is mine. Not a bad smell. People, don't be weird. You know what your mom smells like. You know what your dad smells like. You know what your children smell like. Everybody has a smell. Everybody has a sound. We have a signature. And the more you learn your signature, the more you can tell when there's other things. Now, that's not my signature. What is that? Oh, that's the microwave. That's not my signature. That's not me. That's not my buzz. What is that? Like, you can start to hear the different things. And so I enjoy the way that I sound, and it's very comforting to me. Sometimes I'll hum in the key of F, which is for the heart chakra. And I love humming because I like feeling the vibration throughout my entire body of me humming. Um, doing nothing. Doing nothing is, if I don't feel like eating that day, I won't. I've become a lover of fasting. We used to fast all the time growing up in the Pentecostal church. So that is a skill set that I'm not a stranger to. The longest I've gone is 7 days with just water. And fasting is not for weight loss. Don't be weird. It can happen like that. And there are seasons where I'll go down 10 pounds or 15 pounds. But then I'll regulate back up to my normal weight. Fasting it feels delicious. It feels like strength. It feels like discipline. It feels like a mental championship that I'm determined to win when I'm in the thick of it. I'm always so proud of myself during the fast, and especially after fasting. Oh, peacock proud. And my taste buds always shift after I fast. That's another thing. Doing nothing, and what nothingness looks like for me. It's very slow. I am not In the tortoise and the hare, I'm not the hare anymore. In my youth, I was the hare. I have definitely gone over to the tortoise. I do not rush. If I feel rushed, it's a no. Don't ask me to hurry up and make a decision. I'll tell you now, no. If I feel rushed or pressured, it's an automatic no. Um, Doing nothing has helped me to isolate not just what I really want. You'll hear people say it helps you to know what you really want. It's the why and the how. Doing nothing is probably the best thing you can do during for shadow work and start reviewing the plays of things that really are sticking with you. A lot of times if you do shadow work in a real way, your spirit will recall things for you. You don't have to go find it, baby. The spirit will recall it for you. And you'll be like, damn, I forgot about that. Oh, I didn't even remember that. Oh, I don't want to think about that, right? And as you continue to do your shadow work, you will realize there are things that you thought you wanted that were really trauma responses. And you don't really want that. And the fighting to get that has been tumultuous to say the least. A lot of times when you do your shadow work, you realize that you are following the only examples that you've ever known. And your life is turning out just like theirs, but you're miserable because you're not going to get anything different if you are following the same pattern, the only pattern that you've ever known. You're going to become just like whoever you learned that pattern from. And until you do that work on yourself, the shadow work, and realize I need to see a new example, I need to see a new pattern, I need to widen my awareness and become aware for the sake of being redundant, become aware of other things that I can possibly do that are possibilities for me because this is all that I know. And if you keep doing all that you know, you will keep having a life just like the people that you know. Go know new people. I learned that through being alone. Go learn, go be around new people. If you are a person that has a social anxiety, and I understand that because I definitely have seasons where I need to kind of flip into character to be able to go out into public, right? And I don't mind because I really love that character. She's fun, she feels good to me, but she comes out when I want her to come out. She is not forced to come out, and I won't just become her just to make people happy. That was where I had a little resentment towards that character. Like I felt like I was shucking and jiving, and I won't do that. But if I desire to come out and I'm just struggling a little bit, I'll put her on, I'll turn her on, and I'm happy to see her. And I'm like, let's go do your thing, girl. Let's go network. Let's go meet the people, right? Um, but if you're that person that struggles with that social anxiety and you're just like, I don't want to go meet the people, right? Or I don't feel like turning her on right now, and that's okay. Use I'm a YouTube person. I prefer YouTube over any other social media outlet. I don't prefer Facebook because I feel like a lot of people venting on there, but no one getting help. And venting with others that agree with you is not enough. And venting just to let off steam is basically divvying out your anxiety to other people so that you don't have to carry it all yourself. And I will not be one of those people that people divvy out their anxieties and their burdens and their woes and their gossip onto me. I'm not carrying that for anybody. What I do for a living, if you would like for me to walk with you a piece of the way, you may book an appointment. But that is my gift. So I cannot let my gift be accessed freely like that. For me, I cannot. And that's the way I looked at my gift because it is an asset. And because I'm a person that will jump into action, I am able, I have learned how to put boundaries around myself so that I don't automatically turn on like that. But at the time when I was still on social media, I was still actively just turning on automatically, jumping into save a hoe mode. I don't do that any longer. And that is also why I am off of those social media outlets. It's no point for me to be on there. I'm not, that's, if that's what this is, take me off the ballot. Um, I'm off of Instagram because, truth be told, I do nothing. So I don't have any pictures to show you. How many more pictures do you want to see me in pajamas? Huh? How many more pictures do you want to see me laying in my bed sleep, going to a resort? I go sleep at the resort. In fact, yesterday I was just looking at another resort. I'm probably gonna go over there. It was 2 days for like $100. Yeah, I'm going over to another resort. And guess what I'm gonna do over there? Nothing. At the resort, on the beach, doing nothing. Cause that's what I like to do, and that's the season I'm in. I'm in the season of nothing. I'm in the season of I wear the same outfit every day. I have a uniform. Um, I wear my uniform, which is a khaki colored dress. It's loose fitting because if you've ever seen any of my workout videos, I'm very shapely, and that's just not the attention that I want in this season. And so, um, I have that very loose fitting dress. I work out every day, pretty much every day, and then I take naps. And I love meal prepping, and I love going to the grocery store. I do nothing, and I love it. I take myself out to eat once or twice a week. On Thursdays at the marina, the vendors come out, and that's always nice. You get to take your pesos out there. A lot of them take tarjeta as well, debit cards, and go shop. They've got jewelry, and then I don't want to call it a flea market. It's better. It's beautiful. Oh, and they got um, homemade desserts and things. What? Yes. And get to look at the boats and look at sunset. I do nothing. I live. I take care of myself for a living. I continue to grow and evolve every day in every way, as much and as often as I need to. And I love myself in every evolution of myself. I've loved, there is no evolution that I didn't love. Even if I have some evolutions where I might have been embarrassed, I still loved you. I still loved me. I still love me. All of the things, past, present, and future. And appreciate who I was in every evolution because every evolution got me to where I am today. And every evolution has a little responsibility in helping me get to this place of nothingness that I'm enjoying thoroughly, that is a dream come true. Will I be doing nothing forever? Probably not. Am I going to enjoy doing nothing now? Yes, I am. I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to talk more about nothingness. Nothing. Kelly, what is this channel going to be about? I finally figured it out. It's going to be about nothing. That's what I do. So, welcome. My name is Kelly Maresha, and this page is dedicated to nothing, where I talk about what I do, which is nothing, and the bliss and the contentment and the joy that I find in doing nothing. All right. This is good for the first video. I feel like this literally felt so cleansing. This felt so directed. It feels so aligned. I love myself. I love you. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you can watch me do nothing and that you can encourage yourself and be encouraged and watch someone normal just like you do nothing and be okay and be happy. All right. I love myself. I love you. Oh, by the way, in these nothingness videos, don't expect me to be dressed up. Okay. I do nothing. You better be glad I'm not in nothing because that's the true truth. Most of the time, I'm in nothing. I put on these pajamas so that I could be in something while I talk about nothing. Appreciate that. No makeup. Maybe you'll see my glasses. Maybe my hair will do something. I don't know. You want to know why? Because I don't have to do nothing. All right. I love myself. I love you. Like, share, and subscribe.